All these different voices coming forward. Let's discuss this with Gina Loudon, a behavior and psychology expert, hosts her own talk show. She supports Donald Trump, and CNN political commentator Angela Rye, who used to serve as the executive director of the Congressional Black Caucus. Ladies, welcome. And Gina, let me just begin with you. We're talking so much about the woman who is the lead story in this Times piece. Talks about how Mr. Trump asked her to put on this bikini. You heard her tell my colleagues earlier today she thought she was flattered. She thought it was a positive experience. Put yourself in her position. I think she was, 20-something at the time. How would you have felt?
I think probably the same way. You're at a pool party. You don't have a swimsuit. Someone offers you a swimming suit. I don't see the scandal. It's funny. I read the story and I kept looking deeper and deeper because I guess I just think that if there is anything about this man that is this misogynist or a racist or these things, that some of these stories, somewhere someone's got to want 15 minutes of fame bad enough to at least make something up, right? And so
let's function on fact. Let's function on fact and just some of the other quotes. There was a woman, I believe her last name is Rez, who was the woman who, by the way, Mr. Trump went to a woman to help build the Trump Tower that we know today, and she told stories of how he would make comments on her gaining weight, and my goodness, you really do enjoy your candy and that kind of thing. So there's a broad range here in this piece.
I don't know. I really enjoy candy, and if someone said that to me, I probably would be okay with that. I hope they send me more chocolate. But so I think the thing that we have to recognize is if they keep coming up with these stories, it's kind of like the boy that cried wolf. If they ever do have something big and juicy on Donald Trump, nobody's going to believe it because they keep coming up with stories that they can't really legitimize, or that women will stand right up and say, hey, this isn't what I said at all. In fact, I said he was a gentleman. That's not what we saw portrayed in this story.
Angela, how do you feel reading it? And how would you feel if you were, Roanna many years ago?
Well, a couple of things. First, I want to address the boy who cried wolf. He might be crying something, but it's certainly not wolf. It is clear that in this article, it is clear in Donald Trump's behavior where he's talked on talk shows like Howard Stern and others over the years, that women are objects to him. They are simply items that he collects. It is clear that even if Roanna does not know, she was a part of that collection. The fact that he had a drawer full of bathing suits, right, is crazy. It's ridiculous. And whether she felt flattered by it or not is not to be argued, right? That is a subjective standard, and she can feel however she feels. I felt something different when I read it because I think it's disgusting. The fact that this person is literally running in a presidential race where he is going to decide equal pay for women and whether or not we get family medical leave and all of these things, it's crazy to me. I don't trust his judgment in this. The fact
but
that
let me be fair and push back on you though as well. We've talked to a number of women. Even you look at his daughter Ivanka and how extraordinary she is. Even here sitting in our CNN town hall, and so many people look at her and think, my goodness, he must have done some sort of phenomenal job because he has this lovely, incredible, brilliant daughter. And other women we've had on this show love working with him. You heard Louise Sunshine saying he doesn't see men and women differently. How do you refute that?
I don't, Brooke, and what I'll tell you quite honestly is I'm not going to talk about Donald Trump's daughter, right? I think that is the pettiness of politics. I'm never going to bash a candidate's child. What I will say is it's disgusting that he calls her a 10 or that, isn't my daughter hot? I think that's disgusting. Those are things that my father would never do. So you're asking me about how I feel. How I feel is that my dad should continue to uplift me and not ask anyone to rate me. I feel like my father provided me with several opportunities in this life and always challenged me to be my very best. So kudos to Donald Trump for perhaps doing the same thing with his daughter.
Gina, what about Angela's point? Because for people who haven't read the article, you're right. There is a part of the piece where there is another anecdote, and the woman is asked by Mr. Trump as to whether or not Ivanka, at the time in her teenage years, whether or not his daughter is hot. How does that sit with you, Gina, as a woman?
I just could care less, honestly. What I do care about are the facts of the matter that will affect policy, because I think that's what's so important right now. And I look at things like how many women Mr. Trump has hired, how many of those women say that, he is great to work for, that he's helped them build their careers. He's hired, and the bottom line is his opponent is Hillary Clinton. And whether we as women like it or not, she has hired less women. She does pay them less. Those are
Based
facts.
on what
That
data?
Donald Trump pays them. That's just a fact. She has hired less
based on
women
what
and she
data?
pays them less than she pays men. This is a fact that's out there. You can look it up. And so,
You're comparing her
I
to
think
Donald
people are going to
Trump's record of paying
continue.
women.
I think people are going to. Well, I mean, that's what we're doing. We're comparing.
Yeah, but
Donald
you're not
Trump and
basing
Hillary
it on
Clinton
any
because they
real
are the
data.
presidential candidates.
So what you all often
I'm
do
basing it
is
on
you point
on
to anecdotes
facts.
with no facts, and I'm just not going to let you do that today. That's
No, it's not an anecdote
factual.
with no fact. It is true that Hillary pays men more than she pays women
What
in her
data
administration.
do you have
I saw it
to
on
say
this.
that Donald Trump,
I saw it
that she
on
pays
this
them less than Donald
network.
Trump?
I believe
Because
I
that's
saw
what
it
you said.
actually on this show.
Listen, we'll get on
is a
it.
fact.
We have people. We'll figure out pennies, nickels, and dimes. And let's just put that to the side for a second. Gina, let me just stay with you for a second because it seems to me
Sure.
though that Mr. Trump does seem it's fair, and we've heard also other reports that he will attack her coming into this fall election, personal and whatnot. And I'm curious to you though, why is it fair for Mr. Trump to criticize Secretary Clinton's past, but not his? Shouldn't it be fair both ways?
Oh, I think that it is absolutely fair. What I think is not fair is when the story is unfounded. When they tell this woman,
you got to answer
hey,
the question, though. You got to answer the question.
Pretty...
The question is whether or not Mr. Trump can be critical of Secretary Clinton, and the same can be true of her. He seems to think that you can't.
No, I think that we vet all candidates. And I think what's shocking, again, is that there aren't more people coming out of the woodwork to make accusations against this man who was never even a politician. He didn't have any reason to be such a gentleman, as the woman called him in this story. But I think what is reprehensible is you take someone like Hillary Clinton, who has basically danced on the assaults of the women that are dozens of women, by the way, that her husband has maligned and assaulted, paying Paula Jones off $850,000 for hush money.
Okay, let's not go there.
I wish Hillary would come to the defense of these women. Wouldn't it be amazing if Hillary would come to the defense of these women now? Wouldn't that say a lot about what Hillary wants to do for women if she would come to the defense of these women now that were hurt by her husband?
I think the Clinton camp, and listen, I would say this either way, just to be fair to both of them, but I think the Clinton camp would point to, her resume and lifting women up through the years. Angela, final word to you.
Yeah, a couple of things. One is, I think it is outrageous that Trump supporters continue to go on air and make the allegations that they do that are completely unfounded. You cannot continue to say that Hillary Clinton does not stand up for women who are sexual assault survivors and have been brutalized and victimized. You cannot continue to put the behavior of her husband on her and at her feet. You just can't continue to do this. Now, we know that Donald Trump would certainly continue to call her.
Let her finish.
We know
that
Donald Trump would continue to call her an enabler, and I am just dying to know what he would call his 3 wives based on his behavior.
Let's leave it. This is just the beginning of, I have a feeling, much more to come in the coming months. Ladies, I do appreciate both perspectives. Want to hear both. Gina Loudon, Angela Rye. Ladies, thank you very much. Coming up next, someone